What not to do. It's as important as doing what they do. People have invested a lot in who they are. I remember moving my husband from George Hornbein / filmmaker to George Hornbein / architect. He went from filmmaker / architect to architect / filmmaker and finally dropped the filmmaker. He was so invested in who he was that it was hard for him to move to another occupation. So you don't want to, in any sense, be judgmental. Oh my God, you have to call in that many businesses to get a sale? Oh, good. You know, you won't want to make them feel like a fool that they got into that industry. They're in there, they're doing what they're doing for a purpose. And you want the person to feel good about what they're doing, but you've got something that they can add to it. And I will tell you that that is one of the main reasons why I've been so successful in recruiting good professional people, is I never went into somebody's face and told them that they were stupid, that they had bad judgment, that they were doing the wrong thing. I simply said, let's see how we can fit what I'm doing into what you're doing. Because as you're talking to people, you should have in the back of your mind this question: how can Legal Shield, the Legal Shield plan, as a plan or as a business, help make that person's life better? That's the question. And if you can't figure it out as you're talking to them, and this is long before you've launched into a presentation. In fact, you've avoided giving them a presentation if you can help up to this point until you can answer that question, so that you're actually talking to that person from the perspective that I'm going to help you have a better life. And this is going to help you do that. But if they're happy where they are, you try to sell them a membership and move on. So how do you talk to folks? Oh, I'm sorry, I've skipped a line here. These are some of the selling points. You don't necessarily want to bring these up every time, all the time, but these are some of the reasons why someone might be looking at you. And think about it. I mean, as a small business owner, I had a film production and distribution company. I had this illusion that I was going to sell it. Or I don't think I ever really thought about it. I just assumed that there was somehow this, I was going to build this company and then somehow I was going to retire from it. I never even thought about what my retirement would look like. So residual income, I'm seeing, has a real resonance for people, that they can build right along with what they're already doing, a residual income. Low market saturation, well, I mean, I don't even have to talk about that. There's so little market saturation that we can hardly manage. It's just compared to other people. We are starting, and people will ask you this question: why is it that after all these years, we have so few people? We have 2-3% market penetration. We created an industry. 40 years ago, we created an industry, not a company within an industry. But and Alan Fernley gave us numbers last time. He said 18 million people will buy this service just knowing that it exists. Right. So, I mean, just go after it. It's low-hanging fruit. It's easy to sell the service. You have to be busy, but it's easy. Low cost of entry, $149. That's nothing for setting you up. And that, I heard this, I think, from Tracy. Don't feel like, because it's such a little bit of money, that you can't make a six-figure income, because there's lots and lots of people making multiple six-figure incomes. But it has a low cost of entry. It's almost laughable. Little or no competition, easy sale, everybody qualifies. Not everybody qualifies. When you're selling a product where people have to get financing, I did one time, and not everybody qualifies. Insurance, not everybody qualifies. So this is everybody basically can qualify, and so again, everybody's your market. If you're in the makeup industry, right? Men aren't so interested in it. Now they're getting a little bit more interested, but they're not so interested in it. So you cut off 50% of your market. So think about things like that as you're talking to those people, and the ability to build leverage. This is big. The one at the top and the one at the bottom. As far as I'm concerned, those are the biggies, because most businesses, and I'll give you a number here too. In the architectural practice world, a one-man office makes money, and a 7-person office makes money. In between, they just are making do. And that's true for a lot of businesses, so they can't leverage themselves. Hiring somebody to make your phone calls is not leverage. Having somebody working for you, building a sales team, and getting a little piece of what that sales team does, that's leverage. That is true leverage. And when you look at those numbers, and sometime go up to Alistair Edwards and ask him about that, because he gave us some numbers yesterday that blew my mind, just on our personal plan. So here we're going to take them through an exposure that is appropriate for their profession. And I'm going to just, I've got just about 5 minutes left here. Insurance agents sit across the desk from their prospective clients. Financial planners meet their clients in relatively professional settings. You rarely see a professional financial planner taking stuff out. You know, they're in their office or they're in your home. And salespeople go to lunch with their prospects. So in other words, they're used to meeting in an office, meeting in a boardroom, meeting in an upscale restaurant, those kinds of things. So I'm not suggesting we have to do it just like they do, but understand that. The first time when I was selling, I had one of my market segments when I was selling training, insurance agents, and I could not figure why we always had 2 meetings. We had the meeting where I did the presentation, and then we had the follow-up meeting. Well, that's when I found out that that's what insurance agents did. They never sold. I don't know if that's true, if Nick can verify that, but it seemed like every insurance agent I ever met, they had a meeting, they went off and did something, and then they presented, and that's when they made the sale. I didn't need to have that second meeting, but with insurance agents I did, because they wouldn't meet with me and do anything otherwise. So you want to meet in a way, and the best way to talk about this is you go to where people are at. You go to where a person is, where their thinking is, how they're approaching things. And I had a fellow tell me this, because this applies to everything that we've talked about. If you approach people the way you're comfortable being approached, if you approach people, talk to people the way you're comfortable talking, if you approach people thinking that your way is the only way, you're going to be putting a lot of people off. And that's going to hurt everybody, because they're going to say, that Legal Shield person, you know, and then everybody gets colored by that one bad experience they had. But if you go to where that person is at, and it's almost like a little dance, if you approach them and let them know that they're right, that's, you know, they've made the kind of investment they have in doing the work, this being a CPA or whatever, being a lawyer. You say, great, but let me show. So that's approaching, that's terrific. And absolutely, and I say, oh my God, I could never have done what you did. But then I take a little step back. I said, but you know what? Maybe having this sideline business can help you in your existing business. Get more customers, distinguish yourself from your competition. You know, so you start talking to them about that, but you're where they're at. Well, the same thing is true here. So what we do, and I'll give you an example of what we're up to, I go out networking a lot.